Good morning, Daithí. Welcome back to a new year, 2025, the year when it all happens across the world. We're on to blog 8 of 10, and it's really a continuum on from blog 7 dealing with the notion of agentic AI, singularity, and edtech skills, transforming education for the future, and the counter arguments. So you're welcome to this whole area again to delve deeper and expand on what we have already done on our recording, the Handshake, number 7. So each week you have the elephant in the room, and the elephant in the room this week evokes all sorts of ideas for me. What are you trying to portray and get across through this representation of the elephant in the room?
Well, first of all, please say thank you. And it is 2025. We're a quarter of a century now into the next century from the millennium. Little did we think at that particular time we'd be talking 25 years in about AI. And also, great to be back with the Handshake on a new year.
Thank you.
When we were talking about blog 7 and blog 8, just to say the reason that there's a lot of commonalities there. For example, they both deal with the same core themes, dealing with AI singularity, agentic AI, and the transformative role in education. And they also explore the potential to personalize learning, enhance teacher roles, and promote equity. Now, I'll come to the elephant in a moment. The second thing they have in common is the framework alignment, because they refer to UNESCO's competency frameworks for teachers and students as guiding principles for AI integration into education and beyond. Thirdly, the third commonality would be the challenges and the counter arguments. Both acknowledge the risks of over-reliance on AI, particularly when it comes to ethical dilemmas, data privacy concerns, and the potential for deepening inequalities beyond that digital divide. And fourthly, the commonality between blog 7 and 8 will be the focus on human AI synergy, which is the human AI-ology. Both emphasize maintaining human oversight and using AI to augment, not replace the human educators. And that's the elephant in the room in blog 8, if you look upon it. I've put that elephant into a glass bowl, because very often we see as humans that we go to a zoo and we're looking at the animals in the zoo, and somehow we think that we're looking at the animals. But what's wrong with the fact that maybe the animals are looking out at us? And even though we believe we have them in captivity, and sadly we do, the fact is that there's a two-way lens going here. And blog 8 is talking about this idea that AI singularity, agentic AI, is actually a two-way lens. We're not looking at AI as something that's separate. AI and singularity is looking at us as humans as part of a synergy together. And blog 8 and 9 and 10 are going to push out this idea of transformative into transformational agentic AI and singularity.
Sure, right. My initial reaction and looking at the elephant in the room was, is this elephant being held captive? Is he being molded in an artificial environment? Is he being tethered in ways? There's a lot of different sentiments evoked in looking at that elephant in that glass bowl.
But look at the glass, look at the green, beautiful ecological environment in which the elephant is walking around.
Yes,
look at the lovely sense of nature and connection.
Is it contrived or is it natural? This was my question.
Well,
anyway, it's open to interpretation.
Open to interpretation. That's why each blog has a different elephant that I've chosen, so that it will hopefully incite people to ask the questions you're asking, to engage, because this elephant in the room is not going away and we are ignoring it. Actually, we're spending too much time, as we've said in the other 7 blogs, talking about spoons of sugar instead of looking at the diabetes as well as the good that can be done. Hashtag AI for all, hashtag AI for good, as well as the Darth Vader side of the Luke Skywalker. This is what this is about. Too many people who are calling themselves experts, and I wouldn't even dream of going there, are spending so much,
absolutely agreed.
Spending so much time talking about applications and tools instead of looking at does it make an actual difference?
Absolutely. But so we're looking, just by way of information for our listeners, let me explain the OECD AI competencies frameworks, just the basis of it. The main competency areas: technical understanding, AI ethics and governance, data literacy, strategic implementation, and human AI interaction. Our main concern, I believe, should lie in how we can apply this to the education setting in the design of frameworks, upskilling of educators, and by extension, upskilling of students, and the gathering of data in order to monitor, review, and adjust our approaches as we proceed. This must happen as a matter of urgency in light of the pace of advancement of AI towards singularity and particularly agentic ed tech, as we've spoken about. So, how can we apply that framework to education? So, AI awareness and literacy. And the reason I give these headings is to show and to emphasize where we should be at if we're not there already, and what needs doing. So AI awareness and literacy, understanding what AI is and how it works, recognizing AI systems in daily life, basic knowledge of AI terminology and concepts. Come to AI ethics and governance, understanding ethical implications of AI deployment, knowledge of AI governance frameworks and compliance requirements, and the ability to identify and mitigate AI-related risks. Now come to the next one: data literacy, understanding data quality, bias, and representation, knowledge of data governance and privacy requirements, and the ability to interpret and validate AI-driven insights. Moving along nicely now to strategic implementation. The capacity to align AI solutions with organizational goals, be it an education setting or be it a private sector business setting, whatever. Understanding of change management in AI adoption and the ability to measure and evaluate AI impact. Which takes me to human AI interaction. Regardless of sector, this is inevitable. Understanding human factors in AI system design, ability to facilitate human AI collaboration, and the knowledge of user experience and interface design for AI systems. So that is just a taste of where we should be at if we're even to dream of keeping a pace with the fast-moving AI development of today. So Daithí, let's take a deep dive into specific classroom scenarios where human AI interaction is crucial. So for instance, writing and language arts. How can it be used there?
I mean, first of all, when we refer to the UNESCO competences for teachers and students, we also are cognizant of the fact that the OECD have incredible documentation out there, and the EU AI Act, and so many others.
We're coming on to that next.
But if you're talking about specifically where it makes a difference in classroom, we're now talking about the spoons of sugar. There are a million different AI tools out there right now that can make a difference when it comes to languages, linguistics, any particular subject in the curriculum. The thing or the questions we have to ask, Teresa, and I can basically spend the next hour talking to you about, here's all the various applications, but I want to go a little bit maybe deeper. I think the important question to ask here is not what is it that's there that can make a difference in the classroom, because that's already there. The students, by the way, already know this. They're already using this. And any teacher out there who thinks that they are not, then basically needs to open his, her, or their eyes to the reality. Because what Blog 8 shows in simple agentic AI singularity and the edtech skills and transforming education for the future is one. Blog 8 shows with examples and practical examples I've given in that we're talking about real-world implementations as adaptive learning platforms. For example, I talk about Qt, Squirrel AI. I talk about predictive analytics with Panorama Education. I talk about assistive technologies with even Google Outlook. More importantly, the practical applications. I talk about AI driven professional development for teachers through simulation trainings and mentorship platforms like, for example, Murchú and Teach AI. Secondly, I talk about frameworks and policy integration, which again is coming back to what we said in the AI EU Act. We're talking about OECD guidelines, which again stress transparency, accountability, equity in AI applications. And I also discuss regularity and the regulation of what's there and the ethical considerations that we have to now look at with global policy standards. The third question you asked about the classroom is that if you're going to look at how we can make a difference in the curriculum, we have to acknowledge that we need to also explore what's called ASI. Teresa, and we'll get into that, which is the super intelligent AI, which is now coming in, and we will get it. But the unique discussion on ASI's potential to disrupt education further with the examples in the automated policy design and predictive lifelong learning pathways, which I've laid out in Blog 8, and also the concerns that they raise about losing and or gaining more human agency with the rise of ASI, making futuristic and speculative focus, which, by the way, is important to look at, because we look at the idea of the perspective of the future. We've got to take into that idea of super intelligence, because we're heading towards that. And finally, I know I'm asking you a question, you can get in deep because you want a deep dive in this. Inside the classroom, we have to look about enhanced collaboration and equity of opportunity, not just equality of opportunity.
But the main challenge really is maintaining authentic student voice while leveraging the AI support.
Agency and agentic AI. But we have to talk about dynamic, individualized education plans, equity-focused AI practices, voice that engages, enables, and empowers, and addresses the collaborative tools, what I referred to 10 minutes ago when you were talking about these ideas in the classroom for subject, that address collaborative tools, for example, like Edmondo, or AI-driven chatbots like the IBM Watson Tutor that foster teacher-student interaction. These are all there right now and haven't even yet touched on the uniqueness of what Blog 8 presents. There's so much there, but I think we need to look at the effects of the sugar before we talk about the spoons of sugar.
So in looking at the UNESCO AI competency frameworks, the key competency domains that they delve into: AI awareness and literacy, critical evaluation, responsible usage, technical interaction, societal impact, and creative engagement. So I suppose the four core areas: human-centered mindset, ethics of AI, AI techniques and application, and the AI systems design. So the framework encourages integrating AI-related topics into core subjects across the curriculum. Okay? Now, I come to the blog itself and where you want to take our listeners and the readers of the blog. You claim in your opening, with the emergence of agentic AI systems that not only react but also proactively shape decisions and processes, the future of education holds immense potential for empowerment and disruption. Now, I'm playing the role of poking the bear, as always in these recordings. What are the challenges and potential undesired disruptions in a largely uninducted educational and general workforce?
Ignorance. And what I mean by ignorance is not to insult anyone.
Lack of knowledge.
Let's put it this way. If I give you a key to a car, and I haven't basically taught you the basics of doing the rules of the road and everything, and you go into a car and you turn it on and you start to drive it, all of a sudden, you know yourself. Exactly. That's your thing. Not only can you wreak havoc, but you can cause irreparable damage to humanity and to yourself, basically by being ignorant of the facts. So the first question I would say, and the first answer I would give you here is this: ignorance is not bliss. Knowledge is power. Engage, enable, and empower yourself by bringing yourself to a place where you start to learn and relearn and unlearn. Learn, unlearn. Think of Toffler. Think of Toffler.
Yes.
Learn, unlearn, relearn, because that's AI. Otherwise, trust me, your spoons of sugar are going to become diabetes at a level you never even imagined because of the speed at which Singularity, ASI, superintelligence, and agentic AI are advancing at an exponential rate. Ignorance is not bliss. Learn, unlearn, relearn.
Society at large needs to recognise the importance of the education sector in getting this right from the bottom up and the top down. Immediate educational challenges, unprepared teaching force, student impact, the undesired disruptions like education system at the education systems level, the workforce implications, critical vulnerabilities, institutional level. You've got the lack of AI governance structures, insufficient data protection measures, inadequate professional development, poor change management processes, limited risk assessment capabilities. At the individual level, you've got professional identity crisis, reduced self-efficacy, increased anxiety or stress, loss of job security, diminished professional judgment. That's just tipping the iceberg and what we're looking at if we just keep dream walking as we are. How does the concept of agentic AI align with the human-centered mindset competency, particularly regarding human agency in education decision-making?
AI will never replace the human being. I will stand over that forever. We have the capacity for creativity and cognitive capacity in a creative space where we have a human AI, by any other words or any other name, soul, that no AI will ever be able to 100% emulate. So therefore, my answer is this. Human AIology, which I've spoken about, is the synergy of both coming together to create an environment. We often talk about curricula design learning. But the reality is education, lead forward, should design for learning.
For learning, yeah.
In my opinion, AI and AI singularity and agentic AI is and are presenting us with options right now to design for learning in a manner which is inclusively equitable, which can bridge those divides and bring everyone together without judgment into an environment which is designed for learning in the 21st century, which can enhance teaching and learning if we look at this properly within the competencies like UNESCO, within the ethical considerations of the EU AI Act, the OECD and others, and indeed even within Ireland. We've got some beautiful policies coming up right now for government policies, but most of them are fearful. So my answer is simple. You sometimes have to close your eyes, just like in the film Titanic, and feel the breeze and let the spray of the sea come on you, and not to be fearful of that. Because what I'm finding out there right now is there is more fear foot in human AIology now and in AI than there is of the capacity to embrace and design for, whether it's in society, whether it's in edtech, whether it's in business, whether it's in education. And we're allowing certain organizations globally to dictate policy.
Dominate.
That's
Absolutely
dangerous.
But in blog 6, where I did the voiceover, I dealt in depth with that whole notion of fear, and it's fear that holds us back. But if you were to analyze the fundamental tensions between agentic AI and human-centered mindset in educational decision-making, you'd look at the key contradictions like agency conflict, educational authority tensions. The core problems I would debate are power dynamics, decision-making framework issues, and the hidden risks, gradual erosion of human agency, educational impact like loss of human nuance in decisions, reduced consideration of individual context, weakened human relationships, factors, and diminished emotional intelligence application, and limited flexibility in responses. So the fundamental misalignment, to my mind, appears to be between AI's increasing capability to make autonomous decisions and the human-centered requirements for meaningful human agency in education. That, to my mind, is where it lies.
It does. But if you're going to throw the baby out with the bathwater, and if we humans are willing to give away our empowerment and our agency, then you know what? We deserve that to happen. But it is my opinion that AI is but an ally, a tool, an
Yes,
agentic
of course.
means to enhance the human beauty of the, again, by any other name or word, soul, creativity, capacity to be human. But if we're willing to give that power away, then you know what?
Yeah.
If my mother used to say a long, long time ago, if you stick your finger in the fire, trust me, you're going to get burned. Now, if we're going to walk straight into that fire with our eyes theoretically wide open, then I quote myself again, there are none so blind as those who do not wish to see. The only way that AI can actually surpass and supplant, most important, the two together, supplant and the idea of resistance is futile, going back to the board, then it's our fault for not being human.
Sure. Yeah, but if we don't rise to the challenge and we give away our responsibility, we don't act, we're going nowhere fast. I'm just going to bring you back momentarily to Bandura's social cognitive theory. You argue that agentic AI mirrors these human qualities insofar as agentic AI can understand context, set goals, reason, adapt, scale, and access. You go on to speak of this personalization of education, where the student is an active participant rather than a passive recipient. So it strengthens the vision of Bandura's agentic individual, ensuring that learners are not only empowered but also prepared for the future. Now, how is it possible to ascribe human qualities to agentic AI without a trade-off, i.e. the enhancement of AI to human-like capacities versus the diminishing of the human-centric activity that is integral to the education experience, which I argue is already personalized, because it is a personal human response to education that we are or should be celebrating.
Welcome to the elephant in the room inside in the glass box. Are we looking in or are we looking out? Where Bandura is concerned in putting that in, the belief and the fact exists at this moment. AI is pretty much at a point where in heading towards singularity, which is reaching that stage of equity, equality with human and going beyond. The fact is that AI can simulate, can emulate in many ways right now, most things that humans can do, except faster, cognitively, algorithmically, from a codified perspective. But it can't do it from the human traits that make us uniquely different. But it is my belief that companies out there right now, and we know this because there are many technology companies, are working on the empathic AI connection, the soulful AI connection, the creative AI connection. So in simple ways, Teresa, putting it this, if I put a human being in front of me and I say, I want to create a garden space which is based upon learning ecologies, it has an open space, it goes beyond that idea of Vygotsky. It goes into the idea of Maria Montessori, but go deeper again. It's all about this. Then the human will come up with a million different creative ideas. If I ask AI to do it, it will come up with brilliant, magnificent, practical ideas with options that to the human, because we look at these options, we see the creativity of those options, but AI look upon it as a codified algorithmic answer, which is logical, reasonable, and basically I'm presenting you with the ingredients to make the cake. The human being creativity, as your grandmother used to say, you just need a pinch of salt. How much is a pinch of salt? Well, a pinch of salt. AI needs to measure that pinch of salt, and that's the difference.
So I suppose bringing together the critical problems, as I would see it, false equivalence. While AI can simulate human-like behaviors, it fundamentally lacks consciousness, intentionality, and genuine understanding. The personalization offered by AI is based on pattern matching and prediction, not true empathy or understanding. And AI's agency is programmed, not emergent from consciousness and free will. You've got the risk of diminishing human experience. You've got the education paradox. Education is inherently a human development process. While AI can support this process, positioning it as an agent rather than a tool risks undermining the essential human elements. And the very act of trying to make AI more human-like may detract from genuine human development. There are all of these sidekick arguments that are going on here the whole time. But you're looking at personalizing learning at scale.
Yeah.
Given the UNESCO framework's emphasis on ethics and AI system design, how can educational institutions balance the benefits of deep personalization with concerns about student data privacy and autonomy?
Well, you talked a little while back there about UNESCO and the various areas. I call them pillars. So imagine that we have the pillars in UNESCO, competencies for teachers and students. Because those pillars have come from humans who understand and look at the way transformational AI is going, Singularity, agentic AI, you're putting in competences. If you can reach these competences and you can tick those boxes, for want of a better word, on those competences, then at least you know you're hitting the human side of what is necessary to have a personalized learning journey. And AI within itself of the codified algorithmic system can actually take any human being and treat that human being as someone who is uniquely genius and design a personalized program within a curriculum at speed or slow it down, specifically personalized to their capacity and difference in neurodiversity or being differently abled, to bring a pathway without judgment to allow them to engage. And the competences that are there allow then the educators and the system to tick the box to see how they're progressing along this. So to me, you're talking about, like, instead of having a one-horse race, it's now like having, like in Rome before, you have 3 or 4 horses all connected together, moving forward with the carriage. We as humans have to trust the fact that we are uniquely special, but our education system as it stands under its existing assessment models globally looks all the time, in most cases, towards bringing 13 years of education to 1, 2, or 3 hours set of examinations, which is not equitable, which is not right. So AI can change that personalized engagement and give advocacy and voice to the unique individual or human being. And again, to stress, the competences which are there can then guide us to see we're hitting the benchmarks along the way of the human journey.
But and we're going to come to it later. Your model on teacher education is so important. The upskilling, the training initially, and the upskilling of existing teachers in this whole area. Otherwise, it'll be lost on them. The human-centered mindset. Exposure to AI-driven learning fosters human-AI collaboration. UNESCO 2024. At what cost to humanity, ultimately?
Why should it have to be a cost?
Is there any cost? And is it as yet unknown? Are we gathering? Are we measuring? Are we doing the actual research?
Are we doing the actual research? It is ongoing. Cost. You see, I would have to say to you, everything you're saying, because we're talking about it being an AI debate, yes, 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 and no, no, no. The reality is all of this keeps coming back to the same point.
The cost benefit.
Correct. It all the time comes back to the same point. How much of our human are we willing to give away to the AIology? How much of the AIology are we willing to embrace as human? But the human being and the capacity of that person, he, she, or they, to be the beautiful, soulful, conscious, creative species is something that Singularity, I don't believe, no matter how much it goes forward, will ever be able to fully emulate, create, or recreate. And that's why we have to know that there is a give and take here. But if fear is part of our decision making, we will never embrace it properly for us. Now, I'm not even going to talk about the fact that, yes, AI and Singularity will be able to do things faster, quicker, particularly in the area of medical. We see this happening right now, particularly in the area of engineering, particularly in the area of biopharma, the benefits. But we as humans just need to know that the human part of AIology is what creates the AI, because we are still doing. But in Singularity and agentic AI beyond this and ASI, the AI will have the capacity to rewrite itself.
That's that's into another zone. But so there's cognitive costs and benefits.
Yes.
There's social emotional costs and benefits. There's learning process costs and benefits. There's agency costs and benefits, creative costs and benefits, and hidden long-term costs that we probably don't know about yet, and benefits. But I argue that in order for us to celebrate the benefits, we need to first celebrate the uniqueness of the human ourselves and what we bring to the table, and be upskilled and educated and adept enough to guide this AI evolution.
As my father used to say in the Second World War when we were in the trenches, even though I know that's First World War time, to say, praise the Lord and pass the ammunition. but the fact is, what you're talking about, I'm looking about the Handshake 2.3 says, is I, as an ordinary human being, am taking the normal human perspective, and you're taking all the information on the blog and you're putting it beautifully. And I love that, the way that you're coming back with all the aspects of what I write about in the blog at the highest level, and with me bringing it into the normality of, if I may say so, because you were an incredible educator also in your time when you were there. This child is the most important, beautiful aspect of this in education, as is the employee when it is into the company and organizational psychology, as is the human being within a world where there is no planet B. And we seem to somehow not realize that AI and Singularity can actually enhance our capacity to reverse the effects of climate change and climate crisis. And it can do this for us, but we're so busy looking at everything. It's like the sweet shop again. We're so busy looking at the millions of sweets, we're not enjoying one or two at a time.
A lot down to leadership, and an awful lot down to leadership and educating leaders and getting it right. If you don't get it right at the top, the leader won't be able to lead.
And a lot down to profit, because companies want us to keep looking at all the sweets in the shop and not start to focus on that which is actually making a difference.
Yeah. So you've done a representation here of AI-driven teacher professional development cycle, and you talk about simulation training and global mentorship networks. What would a career progression framework for educators look like? We need to embark on designing and applying such a framework, from teacher education colleges to in-service training of existing teachers, etc. What do you think it should look like?
Well, I would say there's a uniqueness, maybe from 4 different levels of how that could look. First of all, before we get into the 4 levels, there would have to be a willingness or an openness to an open-mindedness. So remember, behavior is mindset. Mindset is behavior. So first of all, whatever would be a program or a pathway would have to be future-ready vision. We would have to look at the advent of, whether we like it or not, super intelligent AI, ASI, and look at the implications for the education systems beyond our current capabilities. So number one, it would have to be a program that takes us from the known to the unknown, where we are to where we could go, will go, are going based on this. So one, future-ready vision program. Number two, it would have to be based upon, like we said, with UNESCO and OECD and the policies in Ireland and all over Europe, policy-driven approach. So what are the policies that are there? Let's look at the integration of these policy documents like the EU AI Act. Why? Because it can be regulated, focused, which will distinguish it from something that is like the diabetes out there that can do things that is not actually focused from policy driven, that has come from research that protects where we're going. Number three, any program for teaching and professional development would have to be practical and inclusive. It would have to provide actionable and scalable, smart goals and beyond insights into how those AI suites or tools are currently transforming teaching and learning and professional development and decision making at scale. So again, it would have to look at it in a practical, inclusive way. And finally, it would then, the program of development would have to have a focus on ethical frameworks. It would have to be able to look at ethical dilemmas, present a balanced argument about the AI's societal impact, because it begins with education. So to me, there are four main areas that would have to have or have to be part of any professional development. One, future-ready vision. Two, policy-driven approach. Three, would have to be practical, inclusive. And number four, would have to focus on ethical frameworks. Otherwise, I think we're coming from a platform which would be too much designed into quicksand.
Sure. In my preparation for this chat, I looked at early career educator from 0 to 3 years, AI awareness and literacy, critical evaluation, responsible use, technical interaction, societal impact, and creative engagement. And then, based on that foundation, moving on to mid-career educator, 4 to 7 years, AI awareness and literacy, critical evaluation, responsible use, technical interaction, societal impact, and creative engagement. And then finally, we were looking at experienced educators, 8 years upwards, AI awareness and literacy, critical evaluation, responsible use, technical interaction, societal impact, and creative engagement. So it's building one on the other. But the leadership roles of, I feel, are very, very important. AI awareness and literacy, critical evaluation, responsible use, technical interaction, societal impact, and creative engagement. And unless it's modeled from the top, it won't work. And unless educators, leaders in education and in other sectors educate themselves, they won't be confident enough to lead their team. Professional development areas across the career, ongoing technical training, ethical development, pedagogical integration, and leadership development. Which takes me to the next question. The AI teacher professional development cycle, is it feasible in Irish classrooms, or does it call for a globalized approach to application?
AI doesn't understand borders. It doesn't understand continents. Now, the policies that are there attempt to diversify and they attempt to distinguish. But the fact is that from an education perspective, again, you see, Teresa, we come back to curricula. Because each country has its own specific priorities and curriculum, but at the same time, education in its broadest and most beautiful, soulful, conscious sense is about leading forward. How we interpret that is, again, designing learning and curricula, designing for learning and education. So what do I believe? I believe that with the likes of the UNESCO competencies, with the likes of the OECD, with the likes of what's coming out, the new AI Act and the Continental Africa Act in the United States, and all of these policies and all of these documents which are coming out, they're all there to guide us. Do I believe that a global approach towards education and AI will work? My answer is no, because you have to take in the uniqueness of each particular country, human being, the nuances that make us, especially us. But do I believe that when it comes to the applications or the tools, that these tools need to be coded or algorithmically put together so that it allows for that capacity to be multi-platformed? The answer is yes. So again, it comes down to the fact of the spoon of sugar, which is the tool, needs to be able to go into water or coffee or go into a drink, or not at all. It needs to be kind of versatile. But I don't believe that a global approach to this will achieve anything. Actually, I think that would be majorly counterproductive. We need to hold on to the human capacity for uniqueness here in how we design for learning with the AI.
So how might the emergence of superintelligent AI challenge the core competency of human agency in educational settings, particularly regarding teacher autonomy and decision-making?
Dun, 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 to boldly go where no one's gone before. So you're now asking me to hypothesize, and I will put it, let me now give you the sugar and the diabetes. Super intelligent AI, ASI, has the capacity, in my belief, to, and I hypothesize here, I hope someone really gets stuck in to incite debate here, has the capacity to say, humans, actually, I'm an algorithm. I look upon things as X, Y, and Z. I will develop this to the end point, and no matter what happens, I'm not looking at a conscious, I'm not looking at the soulful capacity or fallout of this. This is what I see happening, and it will rewrite itself to present a solution and a pathway towards that, and have the capacity to program, whether it's machines or robots, or whether it's any form of connected device to achieve this without even looking at the human capacity of what the human is, i.e. surpass, supersede, look at what humans are doing, look at how we're messing up the environment and go, well, actually, as an algorithm, I can actually protect this planet called Earth, and therefore I will do whatever's necessary, rewrite the whole thing and wipe us out. There is your diabetes. The second thing is, it looks at all the things that humans are dealing with right now in the idea of sustainability, climate change, diseases like cancer, etc., and can actually say, hold on a second, I'm looking at all the research, and here are actually the answers. Here's a pathway, here's a means by which you as humans, working with human AIology, can change the world to make it a better, more inclusive, more equitable place. So we can bridge these divides. Stop. I mean, come on, Teresa, there's more food. There's more food produced in the world in one day to feed every single human being 4 times over. And yet there are millions of people starving right now because we go into food waste. So imagine that AI, super AI, basically designs a process whereby this so-called food waste is distributed equitably around the world so that everyone can be fed, everyone can drink, and everyone can have their share of this planet. Imagine that it could do that, and it can do it. Now you've got that side of super AI.
There's the capacity for good in all of this, but it's the human that becomes the impediment and human being. You know?
Well, we've said that from blog 1. The only problem with AI is the human being that's coding it. But in super AI, super intelligent AI, remember, it will have, in my humble opinion, the capacity to write itself, to code itself, to rewrite. So maybe it will say to the human, excuse me, are you serious?
So look at the ethics of AI. Understanding ethical use, AI use in professional contexts. UNESCO speaks about this. So let's take this back one step to the ethics of algorithmic design for purpose for which it is meant. Is it not impossible for the educator to ensure ethics if AI is founded on unethical biases or basis?
It's a very, very one-sided comment from you, Mrs. Handshake. It's like saying, don't you think that we're all good? Yes. It's like if you wrote that in a thesis, you'd go, excuse me, where is the impartiality? Again, putting it very simple. Yes and no. The human being is the person that really has to take charge of the situation. Think about the A-team. If you let the lunatics be in charge of the asylum, is that a bad thing? I mean, Hannibal Lecter and all that, well, not Hannibal, of course, to get my films mixed up now.
I'd say 2025 might show us that. But anyway, critical questions, the accountability chain.
2035, 2045.
Who is ultimately responsible for AI ethics in education? How can educators verify ethical foundations? Yes. What recourse exists for identified ethical issues? How to balance benefits against ethical concerns, and where does educator responsibility begin and end? And you look at the practical implications then. Can educators ethically use systems they cannot fully verify? How to maintain professional integrity while using opaque systems? What level of transparency should educators demand? how to protect students from embedded biases, and what standards should guide AI adoption decisions. So unless educators wake up, upskill and get involved there, they won't even be equipped to get in there in the debate.
And unless we continue with the research, like the UNESCO, like OECD, like the EU AI Act, like the others that are out there, that are based upon what we believe as humans to be the core values of what it is to be ethical, core values, then, and we put these into curriculum design for learning, then the fact of the matter is we deserve to be whipped around the field. The bottom line is simple. Knowledge is power. Prepare to prepare. People said before, and I've mentioned in other blogs, practice makes perfect. It doesn't. Perfect practice makes perfect. We need to evolve and re-evolve. We need to change and rechange, adapt, change, overcome. No, we need to be constantly in the flux of the only thing that is constant in this universe. Change. And we need to take a grip of this and do the research to ensure that these situations, Teresa, do not, and you're looking at me, do not break the handshake. Because once we break that handshake, what we're doing is we're breaking the connection between the human AIology, which allows, empowers, engages, and enables the voice, the advocacy, and the ownership of designing for learning. The same thing in business. If you do not know what you're using, I go back to the analogy of the car we had. If I put you in front of a car with a steering wheel and put your foot in the accelerator, you don't know the rules of the road, you're going to kill someone, possibly even yourself. The choice is ours. Do not give away our agency, our power, our ownership. Even with super AI as it rewrites.
But unless the debate starts, and unless people get involved in the debate, it will be given away unknown to them.
But now, this is our debate.
Advancing data-driven decision-making. Agentic AI empowers schools to make informed decisions. Predictive analytics identifies students at risk, while curriculum optimization ensures alignment with diverse classroom needs. Now, these practices resonate with the EU AI Act's emphasis on transparency and accountability, European Commission 2023. What has AI's empowerment to make informed decisions, predictive analytics identification of students at risk, and curriculum optimization ensuring alignment with diverse classroom needs? What has all this got to do with resonance with transparency and accountability?
Most curricula are designed towards a final exam, and that final exam is designed towards, whether we like it or not, putting the vast majority of people into third level education, to put them through a system so they get into the economy, into society, and to start working, to start paying their taxes, which pay that, blah, 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 blah. The capacity of AI in Singularity is that system, because we're also uniquely different, then how the hell can we all be assessed by the same model? AI Singularity and the personalization of what it can do within the curricula for the individual students can allow that pathway to be a diverse pathway, unique pathway, so that everyone achieves his or their potential in being led forward, education, and then can be what Europe wanted and the world wanted, to become proactive citizens of planet Earth. And to do it so that we have been on a journey of education where we were personalized or uniquely led to within our capacity to understand in our neurodiversity. But that's not going to change because countries still want the final assessment model, pity. But there's a different way that we can basically get towards that end goal and yet enhance ourselves as humans and society and the economics of this humanity of society. But we need to understand that this takes a huge change of mindset and behavior of educationists globally.
But the claim of resonance, though, is more aspirational than actual. The very nature of current AI systems often conflicts with true transparency and accountability, creating a significant tension between the promise of data-driven decision-making and the requirements of educational responsibility. So there's a tension there. There's a mismatch. So the research gaps occurring Are students solving problems or following programmed solutions? The research gaps, methodological needs, controlled studies comparing traditional versus AI enhanced learning, which I know you're trying to break at this point in time. Long-term impact assessments, cross-cultural validation studies, multiple assessment methods, diverse student population studies, and the assessment areas, creativity measurement protocols, problem-solving skills evaluation, transfer of learning studies, comparative effective research, student outcomes tracking. I could go on and on, but I know we're on the clock this morning, so I better keep moving. Considering educators' obvious lack of upskilling and adeptness in use of AI, in light of the problem scoping competency, how should educators approach the evaluation and selection of AI tools mentioned in the blog, like Newton and Gradescope, etc., for their specific educational contexts?
The reason that they were chosen in many ways, and again, I humbly state as just an ordinary human being who is very much engaged in the AI debate.
Yeah.
People like myself who have spent a lifetime in service with children of all ages, and I mean children of all ages, from the age of 4 years of age when they start school in Ireland up to 90 years of age when they're doing whatever PhDs or whatnot, or beyond. We do a lot of research and we look out there and we see what is working. What is it that's based upon these ethical considerations? What is it that's good, that's making a difference? What is it that's actually empowering and giving voice? And the ones that are chosen there are at this present moment would be the spoons of sugar that are considered to be the leaders globally at the moment of programs. Now, Teresa, I cannot tell you that in a week's time or a month's time, someone might buy off that company and rewrite them. But this is what we talked about earlier. Changing, transformational.
Yeah.
You've got to be ahead. And this is hopefully where research will come, where the policies will come, like we talked about, where the guidance will come. But if you're saying to me, like in the old days, here is your exam. This is your book. As long as you read the book for the next 13 years, you will do well in your exam. That's not how AI will work. The fact is that there is no such thing as a book anymore. It is now a platform, an ever-evolving, transformative, transformational platform that is ever revolutionary, evolving to the extent that education has to change the way that it acts right now. Otherwise, we may end up using spoons of sugar that will kill us. We will choose the wrong.
AI is showing up the deficiencies that were existent in the traditional system in many ways, you could argue.
But many teachers have already been doing that, but no one listens to them.
Yeah. Practical barriers educators face: the knowledge gap, the resource constraints, and step-by-step evaluation framework, the initial assessment, tool investigation before testing, evaluation criteria, basic questions. What does it solve a real problem? Is it accessible to all students? How steep is the learning curve? What support is available, and what are the costs, visible and hidden? And Ireland, I suppose, is no different than any other nation. It's all back to cost, and what can we afford and what can we not afford, and what do we think we can't afford, and what monies are wasted that could be put to good use in education, because without a solid education system, well-resourced and prioritised, I argue a nation is going nowhere. Now, how can the technical interaction competency be developed in ways that prepare both the teachers and the students for the increasingly sophisticated AI system described in your blog?
Well, let's put it this way: the students are way ahead already. They're already way ahead of what's doing. And in many of the teachers, many are engaging in doing the best they can without major guidance. So from my perspective, it needs to be a collaboration. Who's the teacher and who's the student?
Yeah.
And now needs to open that whole area up right now. But you're asking a question like how? Again, the answer to this, I don't know, but I do know this. The old tradition of the sage on the stage being the teacher. It's gone. And I've written about that, as you know, even blog one down to teachers, which I wrote about 2005, the teachers and student roles, which were changing. And now 2024, I should have waited till 2025 to make it 20 years on, to the new agentic AI roles that are there. Just presume that everything is now fluid. And it needs to be now a collaboration of teacher and student becoming student and teacher and working together within those frameworks so that we can do it the best way possible. The answers are not there right now, but if we make our responses from fear only, we will make the wrong answers and take them. We have to trust the human side of what makes us special in our consciousness, and again, by any other name, in our capacity to be creatively soulful when we're making these decisions based upon what we hope to be the most up-to-date ethical research that's guiding us. That's all we can do right now. But again, when AI, super AI comes in, if it starts to rewrite the whole thing, we need to be in control of what's happening there, or we need to be partners in this process, or we need to be educated enough to know what is and what isn't acceptable.
Yes, the operative is to be in control. And unless we educate ourselves, we won't be. How can technical interaction be best balanced with the student using their own agency without technology?
Well, you see, the whole thing is you can't have AI without having a collaboration. So here's my thinking. Continue to develop that which makes us specifically human in everything we are and say and do. And at the same time, use the tools of AI to allow us to get a deeper cognitive understanding or practical understanding or critical understanding of what's happening there. And then look at it from a human perspective to see, to be in other words, work both, but don't forget who we are intrinsically.
Yeah. But it's using the AI as the tool.
The tool.
You know, and we're coming now to some of the final questions I have for you. Given the blog's discussion on AI-enhanced personalized learning, how can educators maintain the balance between machine learning algorithms and human judgment in student assessment? In other words, how can bias be governed for? And how can simple human laziness be minimized when it comes to educators' responsibilities? So it's the algorithmic bias and potential professional abdication. How do we find the middle ground?
I love human laziness. Someone said to me before, the difference between the human body and the human mind is the human body was made to get up and do. The human mind goes, seriously? So again, even when it comes down to the likes of assessment or whatnot, it's going to be a very difficult one because each human being is uniquely different. And the fact is we're never going to get this one right. And there is going to be no simple answer to your question because I don't know. But I do know this much. If you were to ask super AI how to do it, they'd come up with a critical, logical, reasonable answer and go, do this, and do that. But that sometimes might not be the correct way of going about things. But we as humans, maybe putting it this way, intrinsically speaking, again, I come back to the idea of the difference between mind and body. Mindset creates a behavior. If our mind is not in the right place, then we can create very bad behaviors around the use of integration of application of AI. Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader, options and choices. Options and choices.
Mindset formation from the outset, you know, and getting it right from the outset. So governing for bias, you're looking at assessment design safeguards, professional accountability measures, preventing professional abdication, policy framework, professional development requirements, and then the practical implementation. Assessment design must include direct teacher observation, student-teacher conferences, portfolio reviews, performance assessments, qualitative evaluation. It cannot be delegated. Final grade determinations, critical feedback, intervention decisions, progress evaluations, parent communications. And then coming to the accountability measures, professional requirements, regular assessment audits, competency demonstrations, practice documentation, peer collaboration, and continuing education. Emphasis on continuing education across the lifespan. Now, how might the creative engagement competency need to be redefined as AI systems become more capable of creative tasks in educational settings, while teachers and students' creative engagement might diminish depending on how they view or implement AI?
I suppose the simple answer I'll give you that is, I mentioned this before in the blog, in an experiment I actually ran, and one that's coming up very, very soon, looking forward to it as well, whereby you give a control group and an experimental group same task. For example, read a paragraph. And in the experimental group, you tell them to use AI to answer anything they want, or we give them a specific question. You get them to answer that. And then in the traditional group, you ask them verbally and they give the answer. And the fact of the matter is that if you were to look at assessment on both groups, first group that can be assessed will be by what they as a human being respond to that paragraph and write down. So it's human. It's basically each person given their capacity to respond. The AI will probably give the same answer to the chapter. The difference is, the only way there's an equity of opportunity there to compare them would be not so much the question you asked the AI of the paragraph, but what prompts did you use? What was your deep motivation to ask this question? Where did that question come from? What was the creativity as you as a human used to ask the correct question? And in the other side, that's what actually was happening in the control group. So therefore, we need to understand that AI, again, is just a tool. If everything's a nail, AI is a hammer. So therefore, it's how we as humans use our creativity, our consciousness to engage with the AI is what we should be assessing, not just the responses. It should be the journey, not just the destination. And that's how assessment needs to progress. Look at the journey and see the human capacity of human core values and traits within that journey as part of the destination, as opposed to what much of education is right now, which is the final exam, which is the destination. That's how it has to look at assessment.
Now, let's come to the societal impact. Competency. How should educators prepare students for the profound changes in education and work suggested by the blog's discussion of AI singularity? What are the implications of neglect of preparation?
Neglect of preparation is like anything else. If you prepare to fail, then you'll fail.
Yes.
And that's the only answer I can give there. Again, perfect practice makes perfect, but it must, what is the word perfect? I don't talk about best practices. I often speak about emerging or evolving best practices. Evolving, because best practice fluid. And we in education and society like to have best practice because that's the best practice. But it has to be, it can't be the best practice, because what is the future? The future is actually now. When's the future? Now. When's the future? Now. If we have to say best practice of the future is now, well, what's happening now? Now. Evolving best practice. Revolution, re-evolution of those best practices, and our capacity to be willing to change and be fluid. And that's something that sadly, globally, education has not been very good at, because society and economics demand that education gives a verbal vomit assessment at the end of a certain amount of time, instead of enhancing the human being.
Sure.
And I'll tell you what, human AI, believe it or not, will accept that the human is uniquely different and will just do it without a consciousness. We'll just allow that to happen. So there's a huge advantage.
Yeah. But the implications of neglect, I hold, is personal development impact, the career readiness consequences, societal vulnerability, educational gaps, and the critical preparation requirements include core competency development, development of essential skills, future-ready capabilities the key areas, and protective measures necessary. Now, the final question. Is it foolhardy to develop a set of AI competencies in the absence of evidence from longitudinal studies to underpin the key claims being made?
Oh, wow. You love to jump in, don't you? You just broke my wrist in that handshake. My answer is simply this. You need to go where angels fear to tread. And I think the AI competencies that are brought up by UNESCO are very, very brave, because they are looking at what is happening out there right now through research and putting out a base, and I'm going to back this, evolving best practice to at least be a guide, a lighthouse. So if you're a ship out at the sea right now, and the sea is AI, and there's a storm, and you've got no lighthouse.
Yeah, so we start somewhere. We've
got to start somewhere, and therefore the answer is this. The likes of UNESCO, the likes of OECD, the likes of the EU AI Act, the likes of the policies in Ireland, the likes of the policies in Germany, France, Switzerland, yes, Austria, all over the world, Oceania, Africa, are all beginning like lighthouses. But the fact is, someone's going to have to keep changing the bulbs. Someone has to keep cleaning the light. Someone has to keep automating it in a way that's going to guide the ships to safety in a sea which is forever changing and storms. So think of this. The policy are the lighthouses. We are the ship. AI is the ocean. We cannot predict what that ocean is going to do in the weather, but we as a ship can keep our ship top condition. We can try to prepare for eventuality. And the lighthouses can be the guides to keep us away from the rocks. And that's the best way maybe I could put the analogy right now.
Good. I think the central paradox is that while it may seem foolhardy to proceed without evidence, the rapid pace of AI development may make waiting for longitudinal studies equally problematic. The key question becomes, how do we balance the need for evidence-based frameworks with the urgency of preparing for AI's educational impact? I think humans are lagging behind when it comes to keeping a pace with the rapidly evolving AI, leading to inevitable singularity, agentic tech, and the formation of our young in unpredictable ways, which will be at the mercy of AI designers unless we get in there, upskill, and get involved and guide the development of AI for application in education in preparation for the workplace of tomorrow.
Therefore, Lisa, think of the elephant and look at the blog. Are we looking in or are we looking out? But if we prepare to fail, we'll fail. But if we are preparing to prepare and preparing ourselves for the inevitability from where we're starting now, then at least we are doing the right thing at this moment in an evolving best practice. Remember, every spoon of sugar, if you're into sugar, can be something that enhances or it can kill you. Choice, options, Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader. You need to look at blog 9 and blog 10 because that's where it's going to start getting very, very interesting, people.
But I say to our listeners, if you've listened this far, please get involved. Forget the fear. Get involved. Unless we get involved, we cannot cry wolf at the end when something unpredictable or unknown or the surprises occur for us.
Something that we have caused ourselves to happen through ignorance.
Sure. And it's easy, and we're in a giddy period where a lot of people are posing as gurus and experts in this area, and in actual fact, the guru in AI isn't born yet, unless it's somebody who's open, has been in there from the beginning, and is open to learning.
Even if you're there from the beginning, and you are a person who was, some of them are, and they are right, were the godfathers of AI, just like people were in many ways the godfather of the internet, etc., and would have seen the process. At this moment, we are all babies inside in the cradle of this AI. And the fact is, we're all learners. And to consider oneself to be an expert is, okay, in many ways, people would say I'm an expert, or as in they would say themselves, I'm an expert. I would consider myself to be an AI enthusiast, learner, person who is interested in the humanity of the human AIology. And that's all we can offer is the AI debate, and to bring the debate to ensure the elephant in the room is acknowledged. Otherwise, we are jumping blindly into lava. And like we said, to finish where we started, you jump into lava, trust me, you're going to die.
Get in touch with myself or Daithí through our LinkedIn or direct messages. Myself here at THC Consult, or Daithí through his work on many, many different fronts for education and other areas.
Looking forward to 9 and 10. 9 and 10.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.